For the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, and for me, who really needs to have about 7 shots of tequila after watching a football game, ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rant mode. Welcome to another episode of Wrestling with Egos. However you may be watching this show, whether it's on YouTube, Intergalactic Radio, partaking it on Anchor Podcasts, whatever. You know, the paperwork that's about to be Gus Malzahn's termination papers. Thank you for making Wrestling with Egos a part of your Saturday night entertainment. This is going to be a hell of a lot more entertaining than the first 3.5 quarters of a certain football game. Yes, I'm holding the logo upside down as a sign of distress. That's also how I feel about it. Let's go ahead and get it out of the way before we introduce the professor. RJ.
Hi.
Brother.
So dogs, brother. I'm pretty good today. It was a good day. Good couple of hours this afternoon. It was lots and lots of fun watching a football game where the Georgia Bulldogs clinched the SEC East Championship and a third straight appearance in the SEC Championship game in Auburn. Oh, probably better than you are.
This 60 seconds of bragging rights is brought to you by City Barbecue in Akron. Why? Because I have their cup in my hand. That's RJ. I'm Patrick. And of course, no show would be complete without our professor, the straw that stirs the drink, and the Switzerland to both of our our halves of this rivalry. Brian, how you doing? How you doing, Teach?
I'm doing well, and I believe I forget who did it originally, but Keith Urban's cover sums it up best. I got clowns to the left of me and jokers to the right, and here I am stuck in the middle with you.
With you.
I do actually have some breaking news that's just been handed into the Wrestling with Egos news desk regarding last week's homework assignment. I went back and rewatched said homework assignment, which was 2010's Extreme Rules, the last man standing match between John Cena and Batista, because everybody thinks it's a great match and everybody thinks it's bonkers and all that. Until the last 8 minutes of the match, it wasn't really all that bonkers. So we are hereby rescinding homework from last week. You're off the hook.
So one, we're off the hook for this week. And number two, what you're saying is it was a lot like tonight's Auburn-Georgia game because Auburn didn't do shit until 8 minutes left to go in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I'm sitting there watching this match, and I'm like, okay, all this is they're throwing each other around the ring, and then it's rest holds, and, you know, oh, now there's a kendo stick, and oh, now there's a chair, and oh, you know. So, I mean, it was okay. I mean, if I'm grading it, I give it a B, mainly on the strength of the finish, but you know, don't worry if you didn't watch it because I'm rescinding the homework from last week. But I do have a replacement, and I think you guys are gonna like it.
All right, what is it?
It's a vintage match, to borrow a phrase from Michael Cole.
So help me God, if this is one of those matches where Michael Cole says vintage 100 times, I'ma slap you.
This is pre-Michael Cole. This is before Michael Cole even enters the picture of our lives. So we're taking you back to 1989, and it's another summer. I hear the sound of the funky drummer. We are going to SummerSlam 1989 for some 6-man tag team match, playa, in which the fabulous Rougeaus and Rick Martel battle the Rockers and Tito Santana.
Nice!
That's so let it be written, so let it be done. That's what y'all getting this week to make up for the clunker of a match that I gave you last week.
I get gotta be honest, man. The Rougeau
Yeah.
brothers were an underrated as hell tag team.
Yeah. Good technicians. I mean, they remind me a lot of the Revival now.
Yeah, they were good. And they had that
So
great
have some fun with that.
managed by Jimmy Hart, had that theme song, man, that All American Boys. God, that just made you want to hate their asses.
And those mustaches.
Oh yeah, glorious. I mean, just, Raymond Rougeau goes on to be a great commentator doing the French broadcast for WWE. Jacques Rougeau goes on to be the Mountie, which was another underrated as hell gimmick.
Sacre bleu.
I know, man. Well, let's go ahead and get right down to it, like we always do. You can always hit all three of us up on Twitter. You can hit the shall I just go ahead and say it? The reigning, defending, undisputed Wrestling with Ego's Bowl champion, RJ. You can hit him up on Twitter at RJ Eman with 2 N's. You can hit Brian up at BCrigo15, and naturally you can hit me up at Rant Mode On. I gotta admit, I did kind of like my little Michael Buffer-esque let's get ready to rant mode. I kind of like that. I may have to store that one away for it and save it for something special. Email the show as always. We love the interactions we get from you guys, especially with what we've gotten from the Rey Mysterio episode, from so many things that we've done lately, especially a lot of the bonus content at wrestlingwithegos@gmail.com. And of course, there's the Google repository where you can catch all the backdated stuff at bit.ly/withegos. Yes, I'm eating potato chips because when I watch my team lose like that, it's called stress eating. Deal with it. Let's start
I
tonight.
guess I'll allow it. Since you're chewing potato chips, I will launch us into our first segment that we like to call the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I think since he was not able to join us last week, young master RJ should grace us with his good, bad, and the ugly for the week that was. Action to you, sir.
All right. So for my good, I'm absolutely going to just pick the event that was Full Gear. From top to bottom, one of my favorite pay-per-views of all time. The whole show was absolutely phenomenal. For my bad, I'm going to stick with a entire episode of something, and I'm going to say, well, no, basically almost the entire episode of Raw. It was super boring. I almost fell asleep a couple times. There was one thing that happened that was really, really cool. Everybody can guess what that was. Other than that, I almost fell asleep multiple times during Monday Night Raw.
Real quick,
and the ugly is Lana and Rusev again, and I will take that.
Was your ugly by any chance having to go along with singing dun 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 dun?
It's Lana and Rusev and Lashley, and it always will be forever, I guess. Apparently,
we forgot to mention to you last week, RJ, that while you were in absentia, we passed a proclamation that we will stipulate for here on out into infinity that the Lana Rusev Lashley angle is horrible, and therefore it cannot be used henceforth in a good, bad, or ugly segment. Even if it switches to good by some fluke, we can't use it anymore because we've all used it to death and it's become unimaginative. So you should have gotten that proper paperwork in the mail. We sent it registered mail last week. I know you got it because the post office told me you got it. So
right. Well, and the reason we did that because when you're having a discussion about like who's the greatest basketball player of all time, everybody's going to say Jordan. Everybody's going to say LeBron. Those are answers that could be considered gold standards, right? In terms of what is a really god-awful, ugly angle, Lana Rusev, Bobby Lashley can now be considered the poop standard.
Because what you want when somebody names the greatest basketball player of all time, you want to hit him with some Luke Longley. That's what you want to hit him with. You want an answer they're not expecting, and then you got to make them stop and think and go, "What?"
No,
that's what you want to do.
I mean, I don't want to make anybody think that I think Luke Longley's the best basketball player of all time.
Bobby Sura.
Ryan, what was your good, bad, ugly?
My good, I have two. The first thing is the pivot that NXT did when Johnny Gargano was declared medically ineligible. And apparently they are setting us up for Finn Balor versus Matt Riddle at some point. I don't know if it's going to happen at Survivor Series or TakeOver, but down the road. I like that. I like the fresh matchups that we're starting to get here. I like how these invasions, I said last week invasions need to have consequences. Well, the consequence, I think, here now for WWE, you're starting to get these fresh permutations that you wouldn't normally get. I rather enjoyed on SmackDown Friday, for example, seeing Tegan Nox mix it up in the ring with Nikki Cross. I thought that was cool. My other good is Bayley finally getting some comeuppance on Shayna Baszler at the end of NXT as it was going off the air with the chair shot and her knee strike into the floor, because I feared that Bayley was being forgotten. You know, with the hot promos that Shayna and Becky Lynch were having, I thought, oh dear, here we go. Becky's being marginalized again. So I thought that was smarter than to make sure we don't forget about the fact that Bayley's going to be in this match. That's one of the matches I'm really looking forward to at Survivor Series. Even though we're getting a procession of triple threat matches, that's one I'm here for. My bad, and it's not really bad because we knew it was going to happen, but I still thought MJF turning on Cody during Full Gear and the subsequent promo, I just thought, you know, because heels are bad, quote unquote, I just thought that was bad. I know it's going to make for some great matches down the road and a new angle to spin Cody into. That's my bad. My ugly, the bump Mia Yim took through that ladder on NXT.
Oh.
I mean, and she had that kinesio tape for days on Friday night. I know we've talked at length before about kind of she's not really that polished in the. I still give her mad props for being willing to put herself in that position. Because she twisted out of the ring and she knew, okay, my back's going to go through this ladder and I'm going to give myself over to it. So that's my first ugly. My second ugly, and I mean this in the most positive way possible, Jon Moxley versus Kenny Omega, the lights out match at Full Gear. I don't understand how they're both walking. And I know we say that a lot, but this match, there's a reason it was lights out. Because these two guys just destroyed each other. And then Moxley turns right back around on Wednesday and he's looking for another fight. It's amazing to me. So that's my good, bad, and ugly for this week.
All right. This is going to lead into our opening conversation when we talk about Full Gear. My good was something that Brian just mentioned. The Jon Moxley, Kenny Omega match from Full Gear. For a hardcore match, whatever you want to call it, street fight, hardcore, unsanctioned, extreme rules, blah, 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 blah. That was one of the best pieces of storytelling I've ever seen using hardcore rules. A beautiful, and yes, I'm using the word beautiful to describe this match. Beautiful match. I actually might even argue, might even be match of the year. I have been saying for months and months and months that the leader in the clubhouse for match of the year was Gargano Cole Part 1 at WrestleMania weekend when Gargano won the title.
Yeah.
I think it's just been knocked off the pedestal. My bad. Go ahead, Brian.
Well, real quick, just a point of order. I think we might want to make that the show we do in between Christmas and New Year's this year. that might need to be a year in review show where we hand out some Wrestling with Egos
Yes.
awards, and match of the year probably going to need to be one of them. But we'll table that discussion for later.
Yes, we'll have to come up with a name. So anyway, moving along. My bad was the Jon Moxley Kenny Omega match. Because I'm sorry, for the second week in a row, I'm using bad as bad. Because that match, Brian, just like you said, there were some spots in that match where I'm just like, oh God, oh God, oh God. It was painful to watch. It was a constant roller coaster, and every drop on that roller coaster was like watching Mia Yim fall off that ladder and go through the ladder on NXT over and over again. It was like bleeping Groundhog Day. It hurt. My ugly was the end of the Jon Moxley Kenny Omega match.
Leave it to you to be the first person to use the same thing for all three phases of good, bad, and ugly.
Hey, it's worth it though.
I'm about to say, can you blame me?
Absolutely.
All right, talk. I'm not even going to go into my description of ugly because let's save it for the conversation. Let's talk about Full Gear, and we will start with that freaking match. And I'm sorry, I'm pumped up about it because I've watched it again and again and again.
I just actually thought of something. I don't know. I think I do know what actually happened. I bet there had to be some level of forethought that went into this. I bet John and Kenny probably sat down at some length and said, okay, what do you feel comfortable doing? And then their road agents or whomever went out and made it happen. Because I don't know that I would have the guts, the cojones, as it were, to come up with an idea of, I got an idea. Let's rig about 36 mousetraps. And let's have you suplex me or powerbomb me or whatever it was on these mousetraps. You know, and let's up the ante. Let's up the ante some more after that. I just don't think I could do that. Like be involved in that. It would just because I think of all the things that could go wrong. I guess that's just my nature, you know.
And there were a lot of things that could go wrong, but at the same time,
and did go wrong.
Like what? Help me out.
Like Kenny landing on the wood on his face.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
You cannot tell me that's how that was supposed to go down. There's no way he was supposed to take that bump with his face.
No. Not even close. First off, you got to imagine that conversation with Mox and Kenny. Kenny going, hey, what do you want to do? IDGAF.
Right.
You're like, look, I'm going to, hey, crappy impression alert, boys and girls. I don't care. Do you want to set me on fire? Cool. Whatever, man. Whatever. I don't care. You know, Moxley was probably like, you know, set me on fire. If you want to wrap yourself in barbed wire and do a senton off a ladder onto me, and I'm not on a table, you know, I'm cool with that. If you want to break a fluorescent light bulb tube over my back and then stick the broken end up my ass, you know, I'd probably be cool with that too. Just make sure you give me a reach around. Moxley is not sane. I mean, he put himself through a crap ton of hell in his wrestling career. The man is indestructible. And I got one problem with the way the match went down. How in the bloody hell do you expect to keep Jon Moxley a heel after that?
No, you don't.
Moxley got himself over by taking an ass kicking and giving one back.
And then coming out on Wednesday night like nothing had happened.
Exactly.
I feel like he's very much an anti-hero in the vein of Stone Cold Steve Austin. Not comparing him to Austin 316 and all that, but he's an anti-hero in that way. I don't know that he is heel or face. He's just Jon Moxley who wants to fight everybody.
And he's carving out his own path as somebody who has gone on record numerous times as saying he was miscast and not trusted and underutilized or poorly utilized in previous promotions. And now he's railing against the cons and the office and all that stuff still, but they're still subtly allowing him to go out and do whatever he wants.
Exactly.
To an extent, and that's what's getting him over, but he's clearly not interested in getting over. He's just interested in making sure the camera's on him when he's hurling his next insult at somebody. So that's why I see him, still treading that line the way other anti-heroes have in the past.
Right. Let me ask you guys a question. Other than that last really nasty spot with the barbed wire and the ramp.
Yeah.
What was the one spot that made your skin crawl the most?
I'm going to go back to the mouse traps.
Me too.
They took him out, and I'm like, oh, crap. This doesn't end well. And then they went on Wednesday night, I was watching, and they, zoomed in on the flesh wounds and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, get it off my screen. I mean, I get it. I understand.
Jeez.
I mean, you got to have a hell of a lot of trust.
Oh, yeah.
To be willing to put yourself through that.
RJ.
The thing that made me cringe the most was I got to go back to when Kenny landed on his face. I still can't. I don't know how nothing's broken, and maybe it is with the black eye that he had on Dynamite. But
nasty.
My God, we all know, and we've all been told through the years, and we all know, and anybody that's gone to an indie show and seen them put up or take down the ring knows how hard that wood is. Especially a company like AEW or WWE is going to have real good quality wood under there. And I mean, oh my gosh, he just face planted on it. And it just, oh God, I still can't even think about it. But my favorite spot in the match was in my opinion, it is one of my favorite storytelling things in all of the history of professional wrestling is the glass from the table that Moxley put Kenny through, and then Kenny's got him in the sharpshooter, and he has to crawl his way across the glass that he broke. Oh my gosh, the storytelling there is just absolutely phenomenal. And that's just one little part of the storytelling in that match. And it blew my mind, the storytelling throughout that match. And that one particular moment was just unbelievable to me.
I totally agree with you, and for those of you guys watching, yes, we are having a little bit of technical difficulties with RJ. He may go in and out, as you've seen, and may have some slowdowns. He's just having a crappy internet night, so hey, we just chalk it up to technical difficulties and move on. Why? Because we are a lean, mean, wrestle talking machine. Before we get to the big spot. My thoughts on the one that made me cringe the most, other than that, was the mouse traps. Not for a different reason than Brian had. Every time Kenny moved, another one went off, and it was just, and it was like, oh God, just David, just stop.
And I have a thing going back to when I was a kid. I have an irrational fear of mousetraps. Going back to when we had a mouse problem in our house when I was growing up, and my dad would make me walk the trap line, as he called it. And he's like, I don't understand what you're scared of. And he would pick the trap up and just bait it like it was nobody's business. I would always get my fingers caught in it.
Oh yeah.
And that's why, when we've had mice in our place now, I go for the one with the trap door.
Oh yeah.
The main ones, quote unquote, the white ones with the trap, the latch door. I refuse to touch a regular old school mouse trap for just that reason.
Same way.
Too much can go wrong.
I won't show the camera, and it's nothing like really gross. I'm just a little self-conscious about it. You guys have seen me, and you guys have noticed like the way, like when I, with my right hand, when I, close my hand, have you guys ever noticed that my pinky doesn't really close all the way in?
Never really paid attention to it.
Yeah, on my right hand. Yeah. Mousetrap.
They're no joke.
Not gonna show you, but it got me right there when I was real little. It sucked. Anyway, dude, that suplex off the ramp into that barbed wire, whatever you want to call it, barbed wire landing pad. Ow.
Yeah.
Ow, 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 ow. Damn.
Yeah, fucking ow.
Yeah. What in the hell? I mean, what jacked up, crazy bastard came up with that idea? I guarantee it was probably Moxley.
It's got to be Moxley.
Even though I'm being the elite, the Bucks were giving Kenny credit for it.
I know. I feel like that was very kayfabe though. I think.
Oh, I totally think so. But the way they went in, the way the barbed wire sunk in, I was like, oh God, this is like watching Terry Funk and Sabu all over again.
Yeah, and then they had to have 5 guys each like pull them out of there because neither one of them could get up. It was, oh my gosh.
How the hell could you get out? The barbed wire sunk in, and literally their ass was higher off the ground than their heads.
Yep.
You ain't getting out of that.
Yeah, that was just. I think it might have been 4 times during that match. I looked at the villain in training and said, "Pay attention to this because I've never seen anything like this in my life." Like multiple times throughout that match, I said that. It was unbelievable. I mean, I've seen death matches and stuff before, but I mean, like on a national stage on pay-per-view, it's a crazy thing for them to. People in this country aren't used to matches that get that hardcore.
Yeah, absolutely, and it was tough to watch, but again, great match of the year in my opinion right now. Something may happen between now and then, but here, middle, 2 weeks removed from Thanksgiving, I'm looking at that as my nominee for match of the year.
Well, the best bout machine for a reason.
Say what?
They call him the best bout machine for a reason.
Yep. Cody and Jericho, man, what a good match. I gotta be honest. When I saw MJF coming out as Cody's corner man, I knew it. The way it happened was still, I still popped for it like, oh, you little bastard. But
yeah, me.
You knew it was coming. Like, all right, this is going to be it. He's the corner man. He's going to throw the towel. But it wasn't that. It was Cody looking at MJF and going, are you okay? And then kick to the nuts.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, your boy is checking on you. And then you do that? Man.
And and the villain in training kind of he put me over when that happened because I haven't believed that MJ and Cody's time. Either one of them said, "This is my best friend." I've been telling everybody most when myself and the villain in training talk about it. I've never trusted him, not since day one. And when it happened, he started saying to the TV, "My dad knew it. My dad never trusted you. My dad knew you were going to betray Cody from the very, very beginning." And I did, and I said on my Full Gear preview show that MJF was going to turn on him. I thought there was a slight chance that Hangman might end up being the one, but just as a swerve. But I fully 100% expected it. I expected it at Full Gear, and I am very impressed that All Elite Wrestling successfully turned a heel.
Yeah.
Because as far as I'm concerned, MJF was never a true babyface. He has always been a heel because of the way he treats the fans and the way he treats everybody but Cody, and now even also Cody. But the way he treats everybody, he's never been a face ever, I don't think. So they successfully made people pop for a heel turning heel.
Yeah. I never really thought about that, but you're absolutely right because, yeah, we even look at it, even when he was fighting alongside the Elite, the only one of the Elite he ever interacted with was Cody.
Yep. He's the only one he ever cared about. He has talked trash about Brandon Cutler and the Bucks and Kenny, and he talks trash to Jericho, and he just the fans, even on Twitter and at meet and greets, and he lives the persona as much as anybody ever has, and he's been a heel since day one.
Yeah. So I thought I thought the heel turn was done. Well, the heel to heel turn was done really well. I gotta be honest, the promo with MJF joining the inner circle on Monday, I thought was kind of annoying.
It was strange. I thought it was strange. Like, I could see what they were trying to do, but I thought it was one-upsmanship between MJF and Jericho. It was MJF trying to get up to Jericho's level and Jericho reminding him who Le Champion still is.
Right.
While still backhandedly endorsing him.
And then we had the debut of Wardlow, which was awesome.
Yeah, Wardlow. Yeah, that guy's whoo, that boy's a powerhouse. We'll talk some.
What exactly he is going forward.
Say what?
I'm interested to see what exactly he is going forward.
Right.
Because I think it's MJF trying to build his own stable. Trying to build his own entourage, perhaps. Like, okay, fine. I don't want to be in your little elite group. I want to be my own guy with my own people. I don't know what that looks like necessarily. I don't know who else comes in, but
I took it as more of what I'm taking it as is MJF having his bodyguard the way that heels do all the time.
Yeah, the heater.
Yeah.
Hey.
Mr. Hughes. Was that the name of the guy that Triple H had for a while?
Yeah.
I'm going Mr. Hughes. Oh, yes. So, I mean, the Santana Ortiz versus Bucks match was amazing. The triple threat match with the tag team triple threat match was, again, now I'm quadrupling down on the fact that, we have stars in the making in Scorpio Sky and Private Party. I'm, again, saying that for the fourth week straight. It's just, again and again and again, they just keep proving that again, you're talking about everybody else in the match. Kazarian and both of the Lucha Brothers are former world champions in some American promotion or the other. Because Phoenix was Lucha champ, Pentagon was Lucha and Impact. Kazarian was Impact. I think he also might have been Ring of Honor. But anyway,
yeah, I think
those other three guys are holding their own with world championship level talent, and they prove that they belong there. And then also at the same time, I also loved bringing in that second Pentagon, only to realize that it was Christopher Daniels, and glad to see him back. So now we have SCU at full strength. RJ, was there anything else from the pay-per-view that we need to touch on, because it was just so awesome? We can't help but touch on it. Are you there, RJ? Okay.
Maybe he's not.
We'll catch. He'll jump back on in a little bit.
He'll jump back.
Yeah, but you know what? Show moves on. Let's go ahead and move into Wednesday nights. Our usual rundown of the Wednesday night. So what?
Real choppy. I can't understand.
Hey, see if you can restart. We're gonna keep moving on, okay, bud? All right, let's move on, Brian.
Yes.
We get into the Wednesday Night War. Let's start with AEW. Good to see Darby Allin back in the ring. Nashville was a lit crowd. That was really glad to see them kind of get away from like the East Coast crowds, which are always going to be good. Hey, bud, really good to see them get away from like the Boston, Philly, Pittsburgh kind of crowds, get into a Nashville crowd, and Nashville came to party. Great crowd.
The crowds, generally speaking, been receptive everywhere they've gone. It hasn't been like there's been a dead crowd at any show.
Definitely not, but you could tell that Nashville was in. Match-wise, was there anything that stood out to you?
Match-wise, no. I thought this was a show that highlighted more of the promo work because, of course, you had Jericho sparring with MJF, kind of like a mutual admiration society, at the same time being, I'm still the champ. It's great that you double-crossed Cody, but I'm still the champ. You had Darby Allin answering Jon Moxley's challenge, I'm ready for your fight, that kind of thing. I'm here for that, too.
Great match.
And earlier today on Twitter, I forget who it was, but there's some other wrestling podcast that I respond to sometimes. What would you say if at Jon Moxley challenged you to a match? And I said I'd make sure it counts on his one-loss record. And I retweeted it back at him to make sure he saw it, because that's just been the theme. So it's not going to count against my one-loss record. What are you talking about? We're all about wins and losses here, but this doesn't count. So I'm approaching this more from the storylines that they're building, because I think it's a given now that the match quality is going to be great more often than not.
Right.
And then I believe this Wednesday night also was when you had the return of the big guy in the with the Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus. Yeah, you had Luchasaurus coming back, and he got a big pop too.
He got a huge pop, kicking the crap out of the Dark Order. First off, that guy, big monstrous dude, moves like butter. I mean, he is so agile in the ring, and I'm always enamored by big guys that can move. We'll get to another one on the other Wednesday show here in just a little bit. But yeah, I thought the getting Christopher Daniels back with SCU and them being at full strength was a big thing. I thought Luchasaurus being back with Jurassic Express makes them legitimate again because I'm sorry, Marco, God love him, but there's nothing that says Marco Stunt and Jungle Boy are anything more than a comedy act, a novelty act. Yeah. So having Luchasaurus back in really
legitimizes him.
Oh yeah, really makes it awesome. Moving on to the other Wednesday show, I really loved, and you mentioned it earlier, the fluidity in how NXT moved people around due to an injury. Johnny Gargano's out for NXT War Games. It is official. It is Finn Balor versus Matt Riddle. They made that official this week. So now Matt Riddle is out of Team Ciampa for War Games. And I was right. Insert Dominic Dijakovic. Dijakovic tells Ciampa at the end of NXT, I want in. They shake hands. Dijakovic turns to leave. And there's the other big guy that can move really quickly, Keith Lee. They have a nice little stare down, handshake. We're off to the races, which still leaves us the question of who's number 4. Brian, if I may, I'm going to try and go 2 for 2 on this because let's be honest, they bring in Dijakovic. Probably legitimately, Dijakovic was going to be that 4th guy.
Yeah.
So now we have a question as to who's the 4th dude. Can I try and go 2 for 2 on this?
Sure.
Velveteen Dream.
How wrecked was his back, though?
I'm not 100% sure. But before we get into that, I did get a message from RJ concerning the show. He's probably not going to be able to get back on, it seems like. But he did say, I wanted to mention that it's amazing that the first guy to pin Jericho in AEW is Scorpio Sky. Super pumped about what that could mean for his future. Also, Nick Jackson versus Phoenix one-on-one this week. I can't wait. Still trying to reconnect, but I wanted to get those points in about Dynamite.
I agree. I thank you for that, RJ, because I would have forgotten about that. But that it kind of reaffirms what you've said about Scorpio Sky and what we've all said about him is that they may be preparing to strap the rocket to him.
Yeah.
Which would be a smart decision, I think.
I totally agree. I don't know how wrecked, and RJ looks like he might be back in. Hey, buddy.
There he is.
I just read your Facebook message, so you don't. So your points have been made.
Okay, cool.
So we're talking. So we're now talking NXT, and we're talking the setup to the men's War Games match with now Riddle and Finn being official, Dijakovic being the 3rd guy, me calling that one, and then I tell Brian I'm going to try and go 2 for 2, and now the 4th guy is going to be the Dream. Brian then asked, well, I'm not sure how wrecked his back is, and then you came on. So there we go. You're caught up.
Because I thought the initial prognosis for Dream was maybe the Rumble you would see him again. I could be wrong on that, but I'm sitting here racking my brain trying to think of who I would make the 4th guy, and everybody that I can think of is either too minor of a player right now. You're not going to put you're not going to put Pete Dunne in there because he's got a rivalry going on with the Archer guy.
Damian Priest and Killian Dane. That's probably going to end up being a triple threat between those
right.
those three.
So that's Dane. 3 guys out. I don't know like who else it makes sense unless is this where you put Kushida? You know, because you want to showcase him a little bit.
Yeah.
I still wonder as over as Velveteen Dream has been, you don't want to rush him back into a War Games match of all things because there's just so many things that can happen to you in that War Games match in a double steel cage. I don't even want to think about the risks he would take because the kind of wrestler he is.
Here's another question: with Triple H also, with NXT making the statement that they're the main roster, and then Triple H on Corey Graves' new podcast saying that Finn Balor coming back to NXT is kind of I'm paraphrasing here, just the beginning. Could we be getting some sort of surprise in that? A former NXT guy who's been lost in the shuffle coming back.
3 guys just popped into my head right as soon as you said that. I never even thought about going back to the direction. It's a great place to put Cesaro.
Yeah.
If you wanted to. It's a great place to put oh crap. It's a great place to put Nakamura if you wanted to, although I don't think they'll do that because of the storyline they've got going on with Sami Zayn and Daniel Bryan and Bray Wyatt.
Well, also Nakamura still being Intercontinental Champ.
True. And who else?
But if NXT is supposed to be a main roster brand now, the Intercontinental Championship could technically transfer to NXT.
This is true.
Because that's one of the reasons I like the permutations. When you get all these fresh guys and these fresh matchups, is what we've been clamoring for years from WWE. Because we got Cena Batista done to death, and we got Cena Orton done to death, and we got Orton and whoever done to death, and it was just no fresh cycling of people into these rotations. Well, now, you have a lot of possibilities, and I had a third guy in mind, but he escapes me at this point. But I think Cesaro would make a good fit.
I like the idea of Cesaro being in there, because you got to also think Cesaro's cred kind of took a hit at Crown Jewel when he lost to the Saudi guy.
See, not necessarily though. I mean, and also the thing with Cesaro, his clock is ticking.
Yeah.
I think he deserves of anybody. He's most deserving of a Kofi-esque run, where you not that you put a championship on him because of a lifetime achievement award kind of thing. I'm not saying that by any stretch of imagination, but you're a centerpiece. Cesaro's deserved to be a centerpiece for a long time. His mic skills, despite being what they are. And NXT might be the place to make that happen, especially when you consider the injuries and, the lack of a number one guy and that kind of thing, outside of Adam Cole.
Right. That's actually a really good point. I wouldn't mind seeing that. I think, thinking about that and kind of looking at it that way, I think that does give us a great opportunity for a big surprise, which ultimately I also think they could use to kind of roll into, Survivor Series as a way of getting NXT over in terms of this brand versus brand kind of deal. I really like that because they're clearly not turning NXT into WWECW. They are trying, even on the main roster, on the 2 main shows, to make NXT viable, because you're having promos face to face with Shayna and Becky, which, by the way, was hot.
Amazing.
Oh my God, yes. I was never really sold on Shayna as a promo cutter until that, and I was like, she just hung with Becky.
Yes.
And damn, as far as the women in WWE, if you want to hang mic-wise, you either got to hang with Becky or you got to hang with Sasha, even though Sasha's voice wants to drive me to just set something on fire. But, yeah, Brian, I agree with you. I think, now that you've said it, I think this could lead into a call-up, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why I didn't think about it in that regard before. I didn't think about somebody from SmackDown or Raw deciding to, cast their lot in NXT.
Brian was your third.
It's going to continue to legitimize NXT as a main roster brand, which is what they've always craved for.
Right.
Was your third guy Kevin Owens?
It could have been.
Oh,
I think Owens is one of the guys that could go back to NXT for me.
Because Owens is still, and Owens is one of the guys that it ticks me off the way he's been used. He was offered up on a platter to Shane for that. You know, we've done that to death, and we're not going to rehash that now. But Kevin Owens is another one of these big guys that can move, a la Keith Lee, a la the Viking Raiders, a la all of these guys, and you're misusing their talents. And when
Agreed.
Kevin Owens was in NXT, he was a legitimate badass. The way he treated Sami Zayn, the way he treated Finn, the way he treated Nakamura, he's another guy that does and isn't getting it.
Agreed. Those are all great points. I want to, we talked about when we were discussing Dynamite, bringing in Wardlow. Nice to see him make his debut. Did anybody notice, and I don't know if we lost RJ or not, did anybody notice who made their on-screen debut on NXT this past Wednesday night?
I may have fast-forwarded through that. Enlighten me.
I didn't notice.
It was very unofficial, as in they were spotted during all of that. The girls are getting laid out kind of chaos.
Oh,
I don't think I noticed.
Scarlett Bordeaux.
Scarlett Bordeaux, yeah.
Oh, yes, I did. Okay, yes, I remember that.
Because I mean, that's a lot of girls out there, and I didn't know who half of them were, but yeah. I figured
one show.
Yeah. Very surprising that, literally within the span of a week, hey, we're going to announce that that she has signed to NXT, and then the very next week, we'll just put you out there.
Why not?
Not something they generally do, even though she can go in the ring.
Yeah.
So,
a lot more than people think she can.
Oh yeah. She gets that whole, diva, thing, hung on her like an albatross, which I think's unfair because she plays the whole sex kitten thing to damn perfection.
Yeah, she does.
Absolutely.
She's good at what she does. Both in plays the character.
Oh yeah. If I'm not mistaken, didn't she train under Sharky?
I believe that is correct. I don't know for sure. I believe you were right.
Yeah. I think she came out of the Monster Factory, which, the Monster Factory does not produce people that suck.
Right.
The women's though, I'm curious to find out who is behind all this ass kicking, because there is no differentiating between who's getting their asses kicked with the women. You saw Rhea and you saw Tegan get laid out early. Then you saw both of the Shayna-ettes, we're going to call them that. They're the Shayna-ettes. Both the Shayna-ettes and Candice were laid out. So, who is it? And I'm very interested to find out who it is.
Is
Shayna's
team still down one?
No, Shayna's team is full.
Or is it Rhea's team that's still down one?
No. Shayna's team is down one. Because we were thinking that it was going to be Dakota Kai. Because it's Rhea, it's Tegan, it's Candice, and it's Mia Yim.
Okay. And it's Shayna, Io Shirai, and Bianca Belair.
Right. And more than likely Dakota Kai.
Unless they find a poor unfortunate soul on Raw or SmackDown who's feeling like the same thing we're talking about bringing Cesaro back over. I don't.
Dana Brooke.
Yeah.
So why
That's a
not?
good one.
I mean, because again, I mean, we talk about all these people who are just kind of out there in the ether and not and I never thought much of Dana Brooke in the first place. I mean, I know she's got athleticism and all that, but she doesn't have a good enough character to sink herself into, and she's also not that good on the microphone.
To be completely honest, let's just call it what it is. It makes more sense if it's Dakota Kai. If it's
Right.
anybody else, it doesn't make as nearly as much sense.
Right.
I think with this, Dakota Kai has to turn heel.
Because her feelings are hurt. She was hung out to dry and she tried her best and all that stuff. And it's kind of like what Bailey did.
Right.
Fine, screw
And
all you people. I'm going to join Shayna's team.
I think what needs to happen is they keep it close to the vest. They don't even have the fourth person come out. And then when it's the fourth person to come out, it's Dakota Kai, and she instantly starts because she would be the last person to enter. And she instantly comes in there and starts absolutely decimating Tegan Knox because that's her best friend.
Right. Situation where you got Mauro Ranallo saying, and we still don't know who the fourth member of Shayna's team is, and we haven't received any word, that kind of thing.
Right.
And
then you just feed Dakota Tegan Knox.
I'm okay. That works.
Yeah.
So here's
unless Mrs. AEW is the fourth member and you're just not telling us, RJ. Because that would be an interesting piece of business.
Yes, it would.
Yeah.
That would be a lot of fun.
Speaking of surprises, WWE had a big one this week. Well, not necessarily WWE,
right?
More like Fox had a big one, and somebody that we know may or may not have been there the entire time, documenting it. But WWE has a studio show on Fox called WWE Backstage. And last week we had the entire panel of Renee Young as the host, along with Booker T and Samoa Joe and Adam Cole, baby, and Paige, and Renee Young. Else, why don't we do that tonight? Okay, 3, 2, 1. And I'll be damned if Cult of Personality didn't start playing, because an official cast member of WWE Backstage and a Fox employee is one CM Punk. RJ, you and I have been the two that have been more on the fence about Mr. Phil Brooks more than anybody else. Before we get to Brian, what do you think?
I'm excited for him to come back in this capacity. I think he has a fantastic mind for the wrestling business, and I think that CM Punk as an analyst on WWE Backstage will be both entertaining and intelligent. And it's a phenomenal get for. I think people are blowing it a little out of proportion with this whole CM Punk's back in the WWE thing, but I think it's a huge get for Fox. I think he's going to add a lot to the show.
I agree. I also think, you were talking about informative and entertaining. I got another phrase I want to throw in there: thought provoking.
Absolutely.
He will be honest. Hey, Phil. Hey, Punk. What do you think about the Rusev Lana Bobby Lashley angle? I think it's garbage.
I think it's crap.
I think this is absolute crap. I think this is the dumbest thing that WWE has done in the last 10 years. And by the way, I was in some of those angles.
Yeah.
He will call WWE to the carpet when needed. He will praise WWE when deserved. I think for the first time ever in the history of World Wrestling Entertainment, WWE has on their hands a neutral judge to be able to say, look, I have to watch this product. I don't have to toe the company line because my paychecks are signed by whoever the head of Fox Sports is. He does not, he's not on the lines of a WWE analyst like Sam Roberts or Peter Rosenberg when they were there. He's employed by Fox, which means he's in the same vein. Corey Aikman on Sunday afternoons, Daniel Cormier and Chael Sonnen when they're talking UFC, blah, 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 blah. Call what you see. Tell us what you think. And I can't believe I'm going to say this. I love it. I don't ever want to see him back in the ring. But if he's doing this, I'm here for it. I'm here for it all day, every day, and twice on Sundays.
Because I have a buddy at work that thinks he's going to be in the Royal Rumble. I have a buddy at work that thinks he's going to be number 30 in the Royal Rumble.
I hope not.
Me too.
I hope he's, at this point, I hope he sticks to his guns and says, I'm done with wrestling. But him as an analyst, when we talk about our greatest of all time, Brian, I'll let you, I'll give you the floor for your point here in just a second as soon as I say this. When we do our greatest of all time episodes, excuse me, too many chips. We always talk about how your best ability is your availability. For Punk, working with Fox on WWE Backstage, Punk's best ability is being WWE's accountability. He's going to hold WWE accountable for every stupid ass thing they do. Because trust me, they're going to do more stupid ass things other than Bobby Lashley, Lana, and Rusev. There will be something else. I'm done. Brian.
I want everybody to take notice of the fact that, and I want to make it plain to everyone that in the run-up to us recording the show tonight, when Patrick and RJ said, okay, what do we want to talk about tonight? What didn't I bring up? This. I'm going to approach this just for simply what it is. And I'm not going to think about what could happen down the road.
Good.
Because I have said numerous times on this show that I would like to see Punk come back into the ring. But that's not what this is. And I'll save that for another time should it happen. What this is a guy who has, as RJ eloquently stated before, a great mind for the wrestling business. He has been involved in some of the best rivalries in all the promotions he's been in, whether it's been in Ring of Honor, whether it's been in WWE, whether it's been on the independent scene with countless other guys. And he knows when he's watching something that's great, and he knows when he's watching something that's terrible. And you guys are right. As an employee of Fox, he's got carte blanche to give his unbridled opinion, not unlike what the three of us do on a weekly basis when we talk about New Japan, and we talk about AEW, and we talk about WWE, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm curious to see what he does next week with a full show. Because obviously you're going to be seeing him holding court on a variety of subjects. He'll be talking about the NXT talent. He'll be talking about the Raw and SmackDown talent. He'll be talking about the run-up to Survivor Series. I will say, however, that unlike you two, I want to see him back because there's a part of me all the way back here that's salivating about, could he go with a guy like Finn Balor? Could he go with a guy like Tommaso Ciampa? Could he go with a guy like Samoa Joe, et cetera, et cetera? But I'm going to table that for when it actually, or if it actually happens. But I'm glad to see that he's employed. I'm glad to see that he's back in front of our TV screens on a weekly basis. And I'm curious to see where it goes.
Yeah. At the same time, I'd also like to point out he's also got a movie coming out. He actually does, but I'm just trying to make a joke here. So next on the agenda, gentlemen, Brian, you did bring up one thing that you absolutely wanted to talk about, and that is what has evolved with Bray Wyatt as your reigning, defending, undisputed, universal heavyweight champion. Go. I'll let you lead this one. I want you to lead this one.
I told you all out there in Wrestling with Egos land back in June, I think it was, when Bray Wyatt started invading our television sets with the Firefly Funhouse, that I wondered how far they'd be willing to go with it. And I wonder how far WWE would let Bray go with it. And now that he's champion, I'm getting a big time dose, because what we had on SmackDown on Friday night was psychology 701.
Oh, God, yes.
If you will. Because I'll pose a question to the class out there, boys and girls. What is the one thing that when you say Daniel Bryan's name, what image pops into your head? I'll give you guys 3 seconds to do it really quick. Exactly. The point of the sky on the yes chance. I mean, that was the pop culture zeitgeist a couple of years ago. You had Michigan State was doing it at a college basketball game, and you had college football fans doing it, and you have, high school pep rallies doing it. And Bray, over and over again, has proven that he will take what you hold closest and most dear, and he will turn it inside out and on its head. And watching him do the yes chant on Friday night, I was sitting there and my skin was curdling.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's a moment that we all know we loved back when it was happening in the lead up to WrestleMania 30, the Occupy Raw and all this stuff, and the fans clamoring for it, and that ceremony where all the former champions were in the ring and all they were doing was yes, 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 and Daniel Bryan standing off to the side smirking while they're trying to laud Cena and Orton for having this championship unification match.
In Seattle.
In Seattle. And here comes Bray Wyatt. First he dresses up as a magician with the top hat and the cape, and he turns the belt from red to blue. And isn't it beautiful? It's the prettiest thing I've ever seen. And then at the end of the night, there's that 3-way interplay with him and Miz and Bryan. And Bryan's getting it from all sides. He's getting kowtowed by the Miz, and then he's got Bray Wyatt up on the Jumbotron, creepily, despotically doing the yes chant with those eyes. I keep coming back to his eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Just the picture of depravity and the picture of, okay, this is what made you famous. I'm going to make it burn right now. And all I can say is I'm here for it, because this is what he needs to be as a champion. He cannot be a circus sideshow freak. He has to be the guy who's weaseling and worming his way into every opponent's brain and breaking them down psychologically from the inside. And that's half the battle right there. So that's something else I'm here for next Sunday night, is Bray Wyatt versus Daniel Bryan.
It keeps going back to Bray being some sort of 1980s horror movie villain. There are shades of Freddy, there are shades of Jason, there are shades of Michael Myers, all wrapped up into this character. Part of him is very charming and very entertaining kind of like Freddy was, the way Robert Englund portrayed that character, and it was brilliant. There are savage moments where Bray the Fiend becomes superhuman, and that's where you get Jason and Michael Myers. There's that depraved insanity and cruelty that you get from Pinhead and the Hellraiser movies. And there's also, kicking it 2 decades forward, the mind games. I want to play a game from Jigsaw in the Saw movies. He is literally the amalgamation of every great horror villain embodied into one person. And it's brilliant.
And I'll do you one better. Something just came to me. We've talked about Denzel Washington, the Equalizer, before. I would argue that he's doing his own version of the Equalizer right now, because his opponents so far, Seth Rollins doesn't really fall into this category, or you could argue that he does. Every one of his opponents so far has done him wrong in a previous iteration, or he feels that they've done him wrong. You know, because he's gone after Seth, and when Seth was in the Shield, you know, he's gone after Brian because Brian, you know, tricked him when he was a part of the Wyatt family and stuff like that. He's settling debts left and right, and it makes you wonder who's next. So it's brilliant to watch.
Yeah. Finn, Kane, Jerry Lawler, Kurt Angle, not so much.
Yeah.
But, you know, Jerry Lawler always made fun of him and cracked jokes about him. And Finn was, you know, Finn was that last great feud he had before, you know, the Woken universe happened. Yeah, I mean, I think it's brilliant what they're doing. I think it's a vengeance story angle. But, you know, you're right, I'm right, RJ's right on this. I mean, there's no way none of us are wrong. But I will say one thing. There ain't a damn thing wrong with anything he's doing.
Right.
Everything he has touched in all of this has been golden. So, gentlemen, anything we want to add about Bray Wyatt before we get into our bar talk for this evening? All right. So
I think we covered it.
So what?
I think we covered it.
So in the vein of the Deep South's oldest rivalry, which tonight was won by the University of Georgia. Still upside down. Please fire Gus Malls on. Okay. Anyway, let's talk some of the greatest rivalries in the history of wrestling. Safe conversation. Because there's plenty of great ones. RJ, I will start with you. Mainly because we don't know when you're going to cut out.
Ain't that the truth? So I'm going to go with an unconventional one that was from last year. There are a whole bunch of obvious classic ones. One of my favorite rivalries that ever happened was an intergroup rivalry that happened in Bullet Club last year between Kenny Omega and Cody and the Bucks. So we had Cody trying to rip the group apart from the inside, trying to tell everybody that Kenny was bad for the group and he shouldn't be your leader, and trying to tear the group apart from the inside for them to come back and reunite when Kenny wins the championship from Okada. And that whole storyline from beginning to end, it lasted about a year and a half total, and it was absolutely phenomenally told. on both Being the Elite, New Japan, and Ring of Honor television, and it's one of my favorite rivalries of all time.
Brian, what's your first submission into this? Because mine is a little unconventional as well.
I'm gonna stick with the classics, and
Okay.
I don't get a chance to put this guy over nearly as often as you think I do. For my money, one of the greatest rivalries I've ever seen is Triple H and The Rock.
Oh God, yeah.
I mean, Triple H and The Rock, they were both ascending at the same time, 97, 98, 99. And for about 3 years, for about 4 years there, they were white hot whenever they touched.
Oh yeah.
And
Absolutely.
you can still see it when they do share screen time together. They're still a little bit cool towards each other. You look at that ladder match at SummerSlam where Triple H got blinded with the powder, but still somehow got the Intercontinental Championship from the ladder. You look at the Iron Man match at Judgment Day, my favorite match of all time in 2000, and all the stories they told there. JR with the nut cutting line at 638, still one of my favorite things JR has ever said. For me, that's one of my favorite rivalries of all time.
One of my favorite rivalries because it spawned so many great matches and it lasted so damn long. Actually, is a Japanese rivalry. My favorite Japanese wrestler of all time, not Jushin Thunder Liger, the Great Muta, and Masahiro Chono.
I love it.
Chono Muta was one of my favorite rivalries because neither one of them dudes left that ring without getting their ass whooped. I mean, those guys beat the hell out of each other on every damn continent except Antarctica. Hell, they might have beaten each other in Antarctica. I don't know. It could have been a Sub-Zero match. Glacier is the referee. I don't know.
As the referee.
I was trying to get Brian to do a spit take on that because I saw him drinking. And I'm like, I got to go for it. I got to go for it.
I love it.
But yeah, Muta Chono, for my money, one of the best rivalries. I wanted to do a homework assignment a couple of weeks ago with Muta and Chono from Starcade 92, one of the Battle Bowl ones, but it was for the NWA Championship. But I was like, that match really isn't that good. But yeah, Muta Chono, one of my favorites. RJ, back to you, man.
Good one. That's definitely a good one. Well, I could obviously go with Kenny again, but I won't go with Kenny again. I will stop myself from going with Kenny again. And I will instead go back to my teenage years with Triple H and Stone Cold Steve Austin is one of my favorite rivalries of all time. The one that started, obviously, the main rivalry that started with Austin getting hit by the car and we don't know who it is, and ending with the 3 Stages of Hell match, which until June of last year was my all-time favorite match. That match stands me. I have watched it dozens of times over the years. Triple H, Stone Cold, that rivalry is fantastic. For my money, if it was only for the 3 Stages of Hell match, but then with Triple H's return when he costs Austin the championship, and then Austin costs Triple H the championship, just the whole rivalry is just absolutely phenomenal. It's favorites of all time because it leads to that 3 Stages of Hell match that I love so much.
Brian, you're up for round 2.
I will go with another classic, kind of an obvious one because we've talked about this rivalry quite a bit on this show as well. I'm going to go with Nature Boy Ric Flair and the American Dream Dusty Rhodes. Those two guys, told a great story over multiple years, weaving multiple people into the storyline, the Horsemen, Magnum TA, et cetera, JJ Dillon, and just so many great matches. It's hard to pick just one, but that's what makes a great rivalry. Multiple great matches over multiple years.
All right, so I'm gonna give you a little hint on this. I have 3 submissions. All 3 of them are NWA/WCW. None of my 3 favorite rivalries are WWE product. Well, Chono Muda kind of was a WCW thing because they were both there, whatever.
It was there, yeah.
But the other 2 are definitely WCW, NWA. I'll take one of yours, Brian. Dusty Rhodes. In a rivalry that I thought was better than Flair. Tully Blanchard. By the way, RJ, thanks for the shout out on the Tully reference with your bonus content last week. That was awesome. Tully was my dude, but I loved Tully and Dusty in the First Blood match, in the cage match, all surrounding the NWA World Television Championship. I thought they were great. By the way, also seeing Shawn Spears and Tully do the spike pile driver. For that so freaking hard.
That was so amazing.
But Tully, for my money, is one of the greatest technical wrestlers of all time. Period. End of story. If you don't agree with me, kill yourself.
But don't really kill yourself.
I do not want you sharing the same oxygen that I do.
For the record, we here at Wrestling with Egos do not condone killing yourself. Just don't. Just keep watching, please, and you can hit us up on Twitter and Gmail and all that stuff.
It's a joking comment, but regardless, I still don't want you to share my oxygen. I don't want to catch your stupid. Anyway, moving right along. But yeah, Tully and Dusty. I mean, Dusty was so pissed off with Tully that going into that First Blood match for the TV title, he had gotten the super high buzz cut, and around his ears, he had the words Tully written right here around his ears. And I was like, oh man, that's rough. This is gonna be awesome. And they always
I'm probably gonna have to go with give a shout out to one of my all-time favorite wrestlers, Edge. I think that the rivalry that Edge had with John Cena was absolutely amazing.
God, yes.
I mean, from beginning to end, the way that it got so personal and the promos that each cut at each other, the ladder match they had in Toronto was jaw dropping amazing. One of my all time. It's one of my all time favorite matches. It is for sure my favorite ladder match of all time.
Previous homework alert.
Right. I just think that it's from beginning to end, just with both the way both those guys can talk, the way that they both can story tell. They're both Cena gets a bad rap, but he has one of the best wrestling minds that there has ever been. Yeah. And the two of them just crafted an amazing story with each other, as they both did with almost everybody that either one of them worked with, which is you can see that's kind of a theme in all the guys that we're mentioning. All the guys that we're mentioning kind of had really good rivalries with almost everybody that they worked with, which made when they clashed themselves ultra special. And I think Cena and Edge are two of those guys.
Yep. Brian.
I'm going to make you all proud on this one.
Okay.
Because I continue to grow. I continue to expand. I continue to spread my wings. Kenny Omega and Kazuchika Okada. Good Lord.
I was sitting here saying just Kenny and Okada.
You have yet to have shown me a bad match those two were in.
Yeah, I haven't had one.
the stamina and the, athleticism and the storytelling and all of these things that we crave in wrestling matches they give us. And they're both legitimate badasses in the ring. You can't really hold a candle to either one of them. So when you put the two of them together, of course it's going to be top quality. So how could I not include Okada Omega?
The three
That was
that I
actually the
prepared.
first one I wrote down.
Hey, nice. Of the three that I prepared, this one's probably good. And I'm very proud of you, Brian. Damn proud of you. But of the three that I prepared, and I can probably come up with more if you guys get it, another one if you guys get into round 4. This one should be the most obvious for me. Brian, who's my favorite wrestler of all time?
Your favorite wrestler of all time is Sting.
RJ, what's the best rivalry he ever had?
Ric Flair.
Vader? Yeah, Sting and Vader.
Sting and Vader.
We've talked about that before.
Again, let's read the story, boys and girls, because I can't remember if RJ was a part of the show when I told this story or not. When Sting first lost the title to Vader, I ended up tweeting Vader's son about this several months ago. And I ended up telling Vader himself when he was in WWE, when they came rolling through Birmingham, and I got his autograph. When Vader beat Sting for the first time for the title, when he just powerbombed, excuse me, dentures alert. When he powerbombed Sting to shit and just bludgeoned the shit out of it. I got so mad, I broke the remote in my room. Mom got pissed, and I got grounded from wrestling for a year.
A year?
A year. When I came back to wrestling, Ron Simmons was the heavyweight champion of the world.
Because Mama Rant Mode on don't play. You're not going to break Mama Rant Mode's on mode.
Mama Rant Mode don't play. But no
Shout
joke.
out to Mama Rant Mode.
My favorite rivalry, looking back on it as an adult, I'm like, yeah, I'm swearing a little bit tonight. That shit got me grounded. For the record, when I was just out of high school when I told Vader this. He couldn't stop laughing. The big man could not stop laughing. He went, please tell me you're kidding me. Mama Rant Mode was with me. She went, nope, grounded his ass.
It's funny. Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Did he stink?
Did Vader?
Yeah.
What?
Did he smell bad? Did he?
No.
Because there's a lot of to steal a line from a show I listen to. There's a lot of rumor and innuendo that Vader. So ask if
I don't recall. Also, keep in mind there was a table between us, and I didn't get a picture.
There you go. Okay, yeah.
So I cannot confirm nor deny that. So,
that's good.
Yeah. Hey, shout out to the pride of Huntsville, Alabama, even though he's a member of the Crimson Empire.
Yeah.
Anyway, I like Conrad's stuff, but you know what? He's a
Podfather.
And the Podfather can go screw himself because he worships at the throne of Satan. I mean Saban.
I love that.
Yeah. Anyway.
Moving right along.
Real quick, shout out and prayers up to Tua Tagovailoa for with injury last night. With injury tonight. Man, that was ugly.
Yeah.
Nick said an injury like that, it's gruesome and it seldom happens. Yeah, it's only happened twice. Tua and Bo Jackson. Literally.
Yeah.
Dislocated his hip.
Yeah. can't imagine how much that hurts.
Imagine the pain. Anyway, moving right along. Anybody else got a fourth submission?
I do. Yeah, me too.
All right.
Yeah.
Round 4, we'll close it with this
Um,
one. Wait, hang on. Mine's probably not as good as either one of you guys. So let me go and I'll let you guys close it out. My number 4, fairly recent, Gargano and Ciampa.
I have that one written down.
Nice. It's a bummer that it didn't get to pay off the way we wanted it to, but it was still an absolutely amazing rivalry. RJ, we're gonna close it with you since you're the one that started it, and also you got bragging rights, so you get to end the show and all that good stuff. Brian.
I will give you my last 2 then. First of all, I'm gonna show the ladies some love because we can't leave the ladies out of this discussion. Yeah, man. Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair. I think of the horsewomen, those 2 tend to tell the most compelling stories when they're together in the ring. I know that, Sasha and Bayley had a great rivalry in NXT, but Becky's and Charlotte's in terms of length and in terms of stakes, I think rises above that a little bit more, especially when you consider that it was a match against Charlotte 2 years ago now, I think, that started her ascent as the man when Charlotte beat her for the title at SummerSlam and Becky turned on her. And my other one also involves Edge, but it's the rivalry he had with Matt Hardy. Another good one with personal stakes and real life blending with storyline and all that stuff.
Real life stuff.
RJ, close us out, man.
Mine's the exact opposite of real life stuff. I'm going with a rivalry that has to be mentioned for longevity alone because you could trot out Kane and The Undertaker on Raw in 2 days and people would buy it as a rivalry still right now.
Yeah.
The Kane and The Undertaker brothers fight rivalry. That's gotta be Kane. That's gotta be Kane from the moment till today.
Vince lines in the history of wrestling, and I'm sorry to this day, hearing him go, that's gotta be Kane. I pop for it every time.
Yeah, me too. It's my favorite thing he ever said. There's no doubt about it. It is without a doubt my favorite thing that he ever said on commentary or in a promo as Mr. McMahon or in real life as Vince McMahon. It's my favorite thing the man has ever come out of the man's mouth. That rivalry, like I said, you could put it on television today and people would buy it as a legit rivalry right now. That rivalry will never die. It is one of the greatest rivalries of all time. They did so much with it. So much. From Kane showing up and ripping the Hell in a Cell door off to the Inferno match to becoming the Brothers of Destruction. There's just so many layers throughout the decades and decades that this has gone on.
Inferno match, the Buried Alive match with Vince and Taker, where Kane came back out. The forklift was dumping it, and he had his back to the forklift with the fist up. I mean, such good stuff. You got anything else you want to add?
No, I think that's it.
All right. 2 other rivalries I want to throw out that have nothing to do with professional wrestling that RJ and I have to look forward to here in a few more weeks. Week after Thanksgiving, he's got some good old clean fashion hate with Georgia and Georgia Tech. and the day after Thanksgiving, I've got simply the greatest rivalry in the history of college football, Auburn and Alabama. Fight me on that one, Ohio State fans. You'll all be wrong.
I agree 100% with that.
Can't forget about the game. Come on now.
At least Auburn, Alabama will be competitive.
I agree with you, but there's so much history and there's so many decades of history between those 2 schools.
Okay, RJ, if you don't mind, I got this one. Now it's right side up. Do you know why The Ohio State Michigan game is played at noon, and at the very least, Auburn Alabama's played at 3:30.
You've told me this before.
Because every great main event needs a
Needs
good
an undercard. Yes, thank you. It's great. Fine.
He's not wrong.
Auburn versus Alabama is always the heavyweight title fight. I don't care if Auburn is 0-10 and Bama's undefeated, or vice versa. It's appointment TV.
I will tell you how much I agree with that. So I am a Bulldogs fan first and foremost when it comes to college football. As a kid, I was told you are an Ohio State Buckeyes fan. But as I got older, because that's what happens to kids. But as I got older and I was able to look at teams subjectively and pick my own favorite team, the Georgia Bulldogs were the team that I picked. I'm a Bulldogs fan first and foremost. But I was raised an Ohio State Buckeyes fan. I have Buckeyes jerseys in my house. I have tons of Ohio State clothes. I've been known to sing the fight song and rag on Michigan fans like crazy. The people that live next door to me have a Michigan flag hanging in one of their windows facing my house. And I have an Ohio State flag hanging in my window facing their house. And I will tell you, the best rivalry in college football is Alabama and Auburn.
Oh my, look at the time. Well, it's been a great episode of Wrestling with Egos. We want to thank everybody for watching us and listening to us and consuming us however you do it. Yada, yada, yada.
For my brother in rivalry, the victorious RJ, and for the professor, there you go, and for the professor, Brian, I am the ever and always correct Patrick. At least I'm correct about what the best rivalry in college football is. Don't forget the show. Hit us up on Twitter, as you can see right there. Brian's already checked out. So go Dogs. Please on. F Bama. And until next week, that's our story. And we're sticking to it.
Georgia.